Hey everybody, Greg Harrelson here with Abe Safa. Obviously, we are having some conversations around ways to get leads off the fence. I know Abe myself. I definitely have been talking to a few sellers that are kind of like, well, should I do something? Should I not do something? And they're kind of him-hawing back and forth, straddling the fence, not making any decisions. So, and at the same token, we're hearing a lot of buyers are saying things like, I think I'll just wait and see what happens. It's like that's another form of being on the fence. Are you hearing the same kind of things out there in the market?
Yeah, Greg, no question about it. I mean, you always have a percentage of people that are kind of indecisive by
Yeah.
nature, but especially when you get in this kind of market when there's a lot of uncertainty, people just don't know what's going on. They don't
Yes.
know what's going to happen. So I think it creates more uncertainty and people tend to freeze
Yeah. Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
want to do
Not
anything.
yeah. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just
No.
as we've said, and you've said it, I've said it. One thing about a market, when a market changes, the real thing that really changes is the conversations. And so I think the conversations have changed. And I think what happens is people are ready to do things, and then and we know what conversations we need to have in order to get them to do things, and then all of a sudden the market changes, and it seems to be then the buyers kind of like slow down or pause, take a little bit more time, and then we have to figure out, okay, what conversations now do we need to have? And then once we shift our conversations, it's amazing how they start doing things again. Now this applies to buyers and sellers, not just buyers, and I think we'll have ideas on both sides, or that'll speak to both of those buyers and sellers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's the conversations.
Yeah.
Basically, they're going to change, and what typically you have to be in touch with is whether their motivation has changed because of the market conditions. I think that's one of the things we have in our list today. It's always going back to their motivation to see if that's changed at all.
Yeah, that's
That's
good.
really the biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna jump right in.
Mhm.
Okay. And this is one that I actually didn't even think about until just now, when it comes to sharing with you. And the reason why I'm going to share this is because this was real, like real around 9:30 this morning. I'm on the East Coast for those of you, and real at 9:30 this morning is I'm having a conversation. Okay. This is somebody who is in my database, and they emailed me, "Hey, what kind of price would you list my property for if we decided to sell?" So instead of emailing the person back, I actually called them back, because that's what we should all be doing. I called them back, didn't email them the answer. I called him, started a conversation, and I shared with him pricing. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to wait until, I'm going to wait until the market goes up. It's just not quite there yet. And at that moment, I could tell by his original email, he was responding to my newsletter. Just kind of curious where the market is. What could I get for my property? And so I call him. So I could tell there was no like commitment. It didn't sound like there was any motivation there. Called him. Price was not exactly where he would want it to be because he's not motivated. And then he goes to tell me, he said this. He says, well, I don't have a mortgage, and I'm and it's making pretty good money. It's a rental, it's an investment property, and it's making pretty good money. Here's how I got him off the fence. Now, this is me. Some of you would never say what I said, and that's okay. You could just understand my methodology and then bring your personality to it. I said, making good money? Well, yeah, I don't know anything. It's running really good. Well, tell me a little bit more about that. And through the process, let's just say hypothetically it's a $250,000 property. Hypothetically, he was making around maybe $8,000 worth of net off of $250,000 in a condo. Now, here's how I got him off the fence. You and I both know that's a terrible return. Now, he just said, well, it's doing pretty good. Come on, Abe, you and I both know that's a terrible return. And he knew it was a terrible return.
Mhm.
He was just using a smokescreen. He didn't want to deal with reality. So he used a smokescreen and says, no, I'll just kind of wait and see what happens in the market. Inventory in the investment property condos is up 60% in our market. Pendings are down. We kind of have an idea which way the market is heading. He says his investment's doing good. It's doing terrible. Now, here's the difference. Here's the real methodology. I was willing to be real. Instead of listening to him say, oh, I'll just wait, because here's what's going to happen. He's going to just wait, and that property is going to go down. And then he's going to call me in a year from now, hey, Greg, let's get it sold. It's not doing so good now. And I could have sold it at one price today, and in a year, it's possible that on that oceanfront condo building, it's going to be less. So I can either like have the courage to be real with him now and gain his respect, or actually not have any courage, don't tell him what needs to be told to him, and then help him later, but he loses $20,000 because I didn't have the courage to talk to him today. Having the courage to explain what's going on in the market doesn't mean like explaining doom and gloom, whatever your market stats are. Having the courage to explain that will get a lot of people off the fence. Now, that was a seller, not a buyer. Hey, where else would you want to go with this?
Yeah, I mean, I overheard the conversation.
Did you?
I heard the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to, like you said something that was important. You said gain their respect, but also it allows you to keep your respect. Right. You're a professional. Yeah. You see someone that's about to make a bad decision. Okay. And then most agents will be fearful or just wouldn't have the courage to actually confront. I don't want to say confront, but actually have the conversation with the guy about what's going on. I think it takes a lot of self-respect. It takes a lot of professionals to be able to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you have to do. You got to serve the consumer. Look, you're a professional, right? You know things about this market that the consumer does not know. You need to share that information. And what could you lose? What's the worst thing that can happen? The guy's like, oh, no, he's just trying to sell me. No, but I heard you through the whole conversation. It never came from the point of, look, I need a commission check. I want a commission check. I'm trying to sell you. It was like, look, if you want to talk about a financial conversation and you want to talk about whether this is a good return, let's have it. And that's exactly what you did. And I think that's one of the best ways to get people off the fence.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of that call, he never committed to listen, but at the end of the call, he goes, you know what? I'm going to go back and put the pencil to the paper and look at this a little bit more careful.
Okay.
And no matter what he decides to do, I'm confident if he does anything, it'll be with me. But if he doesn't, I promise you in the future, I will get that business whenever he decides it is the right time. But I did my duty, which is to inform him. I empowered him with information to help him make good financial decisions in the area of his real estate holdings. And if I just do that enough every day, I will be perfectly fine. I will get plenty of business.
Yeah. So that one was not on our list, but we'll add that to the list. I don't know.
Okay. Well, you go ahead. Let's start our list.
Just be real with people, right?
Yeah. Be real.
Be real.
Yeah.
Be real.
With good bedside manners. Like, we're not trying to hurt people or trying to prove anything. Be real, but you still got to have good bedside manners.
Absolutely. All right. So one that's going to be very popular right now is, look, a lot of people are going to say, interest rates are too high, right? If we're talking about buyers, they don't want to buy right now. Interest rates are too high. And again, being real with them, like in the whole scheme of things, if you look historically where we are as far as interest rates, it's really not that bad. Just because we had a small period of time where interest rates they started with a number 2, that doesn't mean that's the norm, right? So having that conversation with them, talking about, look, historically, this is where interest rates are, is going to allow you to kind of break through some of these people. Right. And then also the understanding that a lot of people think when they lock in on an interest rate, oh, I'm not gonna finance at 5.75%. Look, that's short term, right? Yeah, they're gonna be high for probably the next 6, 12, maybe even 18 months or so. But 24 months from now, I bet you they start going down. At that point, that person can refinance if they choose to. If interest rates go down, you can always refinance. Okay. If you don't buy your dream home, if you don't buy the home right now that you've been looking at, that's the perfect home for you and your family, you may not see that home ever again. So I think having that conversation when someone brings up the issue of interest rates, that can change. That can change when the market changes, when the interest rates go back down, you can refinance. But go back to what they're interested in that home, why they wanted it, and then I think that's going to help you break through that one objection there.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing that I'll add to that, Abe, because I think that's a good point, is that I believe that a lot of mortgage companies, now, I'm talking about like at a higher level than the loan originator level, like I've talked to, say, executives or high level managers in national banks and mortgage companies. They actually believe in the next 18 months to 2 years, a lot of them believe that interest rates are going to creep down enough that that'll actually spark another refinancing boom. So they're anticipating that today's buyer is going to refinance in the next 2 years. So to get people off the fence, educate them that you don't have to, even though you're locking into an interest rate on a 30-year note, number one, you're not going to be here for 30 years. And number two, you're actually doesn't mean that you cannot refinance. So the way I look at it, this could be temporary. It could be temporary. You having a higher interest rates could be temporary because you'll likely have opportunities to refinance. That would be another conversation that we didn't have to have a few months ago, a year ago, that we now, if we have that, you'll get some people to move forward. And I do believe that it myself. I don't believe that that's a sales pitch. I believe wholeheartedly that will be the case. That'll be the case. Now, to piggyback off of that, I'm going to kind of take it another layer, but in a similar, but within the interest rate conversation, I would say this. So this would be a third one here is that, look, I understand that you have to pay a higher interest rate. But the cool thing is as you're having to pay 4 or 5% in interest rate, whatever that number is, ever since we had to pay, the interest rates went up, the amount that you had to offer to get an acceptable contract went down. In other words, like if the interest rates were 3% right now, on this property, if the interest rates were 3%, let's hypothetically, this is a $400,000 property or a $300,000 property. I'll say $300,000. This $300,000 property, if interest rates were 3% right now, in order to get this property, you would have to offer $330,000 to even have a chance to get this property. Now that interest rate went up a little bit, all you have to do is offer $300,000 and you'll probably get that property. That's a $30,000 swing to have a chance to buy this property. So even though interest rates went up and you're paying a little bit more, you're paying a little bit less over here. And a lot of people would be okay to pay a little bit more in interest to not have to pay so much for the property, knowing that what they pay for the property lasts forever. But what they agree to do in interest rates is probably short term because they'll have an opportunity, likely have an opportunity to refinance someday in the future. Listen, that dialogue that I just shared, that's a very important dialogue because it's true. If interest, all of us know right now that, even though somebody's going to say, oh my gosh, there's no inventory in my market, people are still paying over full price. They're not paying over full price at the same rate. If they were paying $300,000 was $340,000 to get it, then it's $320 now. That's still a $20,000 shift.
That's a great point. And you're not even taking into consideration the stress. You're not dealing with 25 offers you're competing with. Now you can actually have an appraisal. You can actually do a home inspection. So you're not waiving every single thing like you were doing, 6 months ago or a year ago. So all of those.
When you have I didn't think about the home inspection, Abe.
Yeah.
Appraisal and home inspection, you're not having to do as many appraisal gaps. And then in the inspection, when something's really wrong with the property, the seller's actually willing to compromise versus before something was wrong with the property, $2,000 repair. The seller was like, no, I'm not paying $2,000. Matter of fact, I hope you back out because I'm going to sell it for higher. Sellers are not saying that right this second. There's another $2,000 savings. So they could save more in the negotiation today than they're losing in a higher interest rate. We need to educate the buyer. This is the type of conversation that gets people off the fence.
Yep. All right. Another way to get them off the fence is talk about the inventory. There are more properties to choose from right now than there has been in the last two to 3 years. Right. So they haven't talked about being on the fence. They haven't even been in the game the last year and a half because they can never find anything. And every time they found something, there'd be 20 offers on it. So now you've been begging for properties. Now here's the opportunity. The opportunity right now to be able to get a property, not have to go above asking price, not get into a bidding war. Okay, so this is the chance to go in and buy these.
Yes.
So I think that's another one that you can use right now.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if that's 4 or 5, but it doesn't really matter.
We always discount.
Yeah, because we're just going to keep going. And if there's anybody that chooses to ask a question or whatnot, feel free. Deborah K, Gregory Matthews. I don't know if that's your full name. I'm going to call you Deborah K, but if it's Deborah K Gregory Matthews, that's awesome too. Do you have your own newsletter you send out? Does RealGeeks have a template? Is the same as monthly market reports? Okay, so to answer your question, Deborah, I actually do send a newsletter out that is completely different. RealGeeks doesn't have like monthly newsletters that you send out. I create my own newsletter and I send it out to my database. So I've got, everybody that's in RealGeeks. What I would do is I create a newsletter and then I can send it out to the people tagged certain, depending on who I want to send it to, I would send that out through RealGeeks. And for some of you that are going to say, well, how in the world do you do that? I just create I create a workflow. It just only has one email in it. But I do not go out and spam blast everybody in the database because that's just going to be problematic for you. But you may choose your centers of influence or a certain category of your database, and you kind of hit them consistently. But it's something that I make up, every month I write. Usually I write it. Abe and I create some videos. We call it Myrtle Beach Real Estate TV. If you want some examples like of what Abe and I do for the consumer and to educate consumer, go to Myrtle Beach Real Estate TV YouTube channel, and you can see Abe and I once a week re-record a market update, and then we send that to our database. So you kind of get a feel for what I'm sending.
Yeah, I was actually trying to look up that video here and post the link, but I can't.
Okay. Yeah, that's that'd be a good idea.
Okay.
I recommend anybody, that if you could be consistent at it, it's very effective to write an email, send it, but also embed a link. You said this one about, okay, so we talked about, interest rates. Didn't you just say there's more properties to choose from? Is that what you just said? More inventory?
I did, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just remember, like a lot of you don't know, but I would say you should all go into your MLS and you should look at how much inventory has increased in your MLS. Okay. So Abe's talking about more properties to choose from, to look at. You got more choices. That's fantastic. But one of the things that'll help you move the people that are in your database is if you give them a statistic around that. Because like when you say, oh, there's more properties to choose. Yeah, let's go. That's one thing. But if you say, hey, look, the inventory in single family homes in this price range has increased by 20%. So this really poses a strong opportunity for us. Right now, interest rates have increased, which has allowed us to have more choices in the properties we choose. But in the event that interest rates go down, you know what's going to happen. Those good properties are going to sell. They're going to sell for significantly higher money. And we could be back in the same situation, wishing we had made a move. These are the types of dialogues that you can have with your buyers to get them off the fence. So I just want to add a little bit more dialogue to that one.
Yeah, I think Brendan Rendo just said 96% up since January 1st. If that's inventory, that's astounding.
Yeah.
That's almost double inventory, yeah.
I mean, you know what? I believe it.
Yeah.
And I also will speculate that he's in a market that the inventory was like it may have been, let's just say it went down to 3 weeks of total inventory on the market. And now it's 6 weeks of inventory. Now everyone's going to still say, oh gosh, that's still like almost nothing to sell. Yes, I got it. But from a percentage point, that's a sign that there's movement. That's a sign that there's movement. And we need to, like, to get the last one I'm going to say about getting people off the fence, and it's a perfect segue to it, is you can get people off the fence by sharing facts and data. Like, you have to be careful in a shifting market to not come off as if you're trying to manipulate them, that you're trying to say things to get them to do things so you can earn a commission. Like, everybody's radar is a little bit up right now. Oh, is Brendan just saying that because he wants me to list? Is he just using that to try to get me to list at a lower price? Is he just using that to get me to write a contract? No matter what they believe, there's a little bit of skepticism in there. So if you sit there and say, hey, look, you know what, the market's still active, but one thing I've been paying attention to is there's been a 96% increase in active properties on the market right now. So competition is picking up quite aggressively. So just him making that one statement and having some sort of data point, it kind of legitimizes, it sounds more real. It sounds less of a sales pitch and more of an informational comment. And we need to bring a little bit more of the data and facts into the market to help people justify moving forward. Like, just a good sales pitch is not enough for them to move forward. They need some sort of hard evidence. What were you gonna say, Abe?
Yeah, I mean, it makes that conversation have a little bit more meaning to them when you actually give real data instead of just talking in general terms.
Yes.
I do want to add one thing, Greg, because I want to make sure we create this distinction. Getting people off the fence isn't always leading to a yes. It's not always about pulling a trigger. It's about making a decision one way or the other. Look, some people you talk to, the final decision is going to be, look, we're just not going to buy right now. We're just not going to sell right now. When that happens, to me, that's just as good as a result as getting them to say yes, because what you did is you served that consumer that day. Okay, what's worse is for them to kind of be just in limbo, just indecisive, not sure where they want to go. And also for you, that's going to waste the most amount of your time. You don't want to keep following up with somebody and trying to figure out, okay, are you ready? Are you ready? And then wasting all that time. So the sooner you can get someone to make a decision, whether it's a yes or a no, the more that everybody is served. So keep that in mind as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's so important, Abe, because success and victory doesn't need to be measured on whether or not I converted that no into a yes today. Success, we should be measuring it. Did we advance the ball today? Did we get them thinking? Did we establish more rapport? Did we educate them in a way that we have now become their preferred real estate professional? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or you could get them into your database and a market activity report, or get them into your database and give them a property alerts. Or maybe you change the properties, that the saved searches that you've done for them. It's like all of those things are little improvements. It's optimizing. And I think we should celebrate those types of victories and not put the pressure on us that the only victory and win is if we converted it today and got a signature. It's a series of small advances that gets us to the end zone.
And especially with a system like Real Geese, I mean, you've got so many tools to kind of stay in touch with people, watch their activity, send them updates, nurture them. Like, you shouldn't be so stressed out and so focused on, I've got to get them to convert at this moment. Like, you can be patient and just allow things, work at their pace, but also, like you said, Greg, make sure that you give them the facts, give them the data. Then at the end of the day, the decision is going to have to come down on what's best for them and their families at that point.
Yeah. I like it. All right. Well, hey, there's a wrap for, for today. There's more than 5 ways, of course, to get your leads off the fence. Hopefully you found that very helpful. And Abe and I will continue to come at you, each week and give you more and more tips on how to be successful in this real estate practice. So please continue to follow us. If you have any comments, go ahead and put them down in the, in the feed. And then if you would want some additional coaching regarding Real Geeks, we have a program called Real Geeks Mastery Coaching, where, we go ahead and help people learn more about the Real Geeks technology, share, really become extremely transparent about what we do to leverage the system. That's kind of an idea of like where I go, and share a little bit more information like on how to do newsletters and things like that. But you all go out there, you've got plenty of leads that are straddling the fence right now. Go ahead and have these conversations with your leads and make sure you get them off the fence and get them into pending status. All right, everybody, check in. Check you later. Bye-bye.